Hello, it is Scott with ZenB AI, and welcome to the Systems Are Sexy podcast. Today, we are joined by John Beaman. He's the founder of Traverse Property Management. John combines his background in tax and accounting with a passion for personalized service, helping property owners maximize returns while keeping tenants happy. We'll explore his journey, the challenges of property management, and how technology and innovation are shaping the industry. So, welcome to the show, John.
Thank you, Scott. It's a privilege to be here with the Systems Are Sexy podcast.
Yeah, of course. Let's kind of start from the beginning here. Maybe talk about how I mentioned about your background a little bit, but how did it get to starting Traverse Property Management?
Well, I initially had gotten my real estate license and didn't know anything about property management at all. I was aware of renting apartments. I was dumbfounded by the concept of renting homes, residential houses, single family houses. And when I had received my real estate license in 2012, I started out as thinking I was going to be that millionaire agent and do some really premium listings, and that was going to be my career. And it was the polar opposite. I had my first listing, which was extremely tough to secure, and then ultimately it falling in the hands of Wells Fargo through a foreclosure. So I tried to do a short sell on it last second. The client that I had onboarded, my first listing client, really had strung that out as far as it could have been in the process, and he just didn't allow much time for us. And about that time, I was so bummed out, and I was really grasping for some low lying fruit. Bills were coming in, and I met a guy that evening after that listing had fallen through. And we were playing pool at a bar. It starts at a bar, and my brother and I, all the tables were full in this bar, and so we needed a place just to set our drinks down. And this guy had this table all by himself, and I said, "Hey, can we set our drinks down?" He said, "Sure." My brother goes to the bathroom, and I start talking with this guy, and come to find out, he's got a real estate license, and he's understanding where I'm coming from, and he's like, "Hey, have you ever thought about leasing?" And I told him, I was like, "Apartments? No, that's a bust. I'm not going to do that." And he said, "No, houses." He said, "I'll tell you what, you seem really ambitious. Call me on Monday." And he worked for a property management company here in Dallas. And he said, let's talk. Let's see what we can do. And so we talked for a couple of weeks, and he gave me a couple of listings and said, "See what you can do. We're having a hard time with these, and just go out and show them and try to drive applications." And I did that and started leasing houses very quickly for them. And I was at a 1099 pay structure with them. I wasn't an employee. And so they said, "John, you do this pretty well. Why don't you just come on as a full-time leasing agent for our company, and we'll give you the whole Dallas area, and, we'll set you up, meet salary and commissions on top of the leases, and paid sick days and vacation and holidays." I said, "Man, this sounds like a good deal." And that's really how I started into residential property management, and just ascended the ladder through a large national size property management company, and learned an awful lot, and decided, I'd really kind of hit the ceiling with that company, and it was time to obtain my broker's license and go independent. And so I did that in 2021.
Awesome. Yeah. So good things do happen at bars, is what we're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. Something I wouldn't think many times, but in that occasion it did. It was a blessing. So
Great. You had mentioned about having like a family-like approach and about local vendor relationships. How do you ensure those values are maintained as you guys scale the company?
you really got to be involved with your team. I'm not the type of leader that just disappears and takes off for days and weeks on end. I think that to breed great culture, you've got to be there as the leader. And when you set expectations, and I mean, they're looking at you as much as you're looking at them. And I think really keeping them involved. I can't say that meetings with a weekly cadence, I think that's a little too much. Sometimes you can have so many meetings that it's just a time sap, but having a good, maybe monthly meeting, 1 hour, just a quick powwow on bottlenecks, failures and successes. And then, you will see at times where, our systems are all tied together. So I get notified on any of our owner clients. And so if I see lack of response or things of that nature, I'm pretty good to button that up and just shore that up with the team on the importance of really being here to satisfy our clients and to respond in a timely manner and be transparent all the while.
I know you guys have properties across multiple counties. Are there specific operational challenges you face when you have properties spread out like that?
Yeah. I'll highlight some of that. Dallas, Fort Worth, for example. That's the marketplace that we're in. Our company is actually in Fort Worth, Texas. Dallas Fort Worth is really a big area mass wise, size wise. And so, it's not uncommon, even if you took the tollways to go from South Fort Worth to north of Dallas, Plano, for example, that could take you every bit of 2.5 hours. And then that's one way. And then you've got another 2.5 back. So that's 5 hours. The margins are slim in this business. And so you're not really making money. You're losing money with that type of setup. Our model is so much more different than most management companies in that we only service 2 counties. Actually, it's Tarrant and Parker. And having that smaller service area, we're here in these communities, are not far. We're no further than a 45-minute drive from our office one way. And the alike with the vendors, having the windshield time built into a bill, driving a handyman from Plano to Fort Worth, I can assure you, you're going to see that in your bill. And so you're actually really, by having a smaller service area, it's our testament to our clients that we're not here to take on the world. We're not here to manage every door. We're not strictly profit driven. We've got to make a profit, obviously, but we're really about that high standard regarding customer service and communication. Communication is the number one reason why property managers get terminated. So having that area, that small area, it just works for all parties, really.
That's true. I know you had mentioned on your website about a waiting list of potential renters. How do you manage that, but also nurtures that interest? So you stay in touch with those people. Maybe they're not ready to rent today, but maybe in 6 months they are.
Yep. Great question. We do put all of our prospects into a program from the moment they inquire on one of our homes. It notifies our leasing agent, but it also works in tandem with a system that we utilize called Tenant Turner. It's a self-showing system. I will highlight, I'm not a lawyer, but I do think it's important to note that all states are independent and they're different regarding their laws. This may be a permitted device that you can use within your state. Maybe it's not, but it is a system that we find highly effective to mitigate days on market. A vacancy is the largest expense for an investor property owner. Second largest, biggest expense is maintenance. So, we want to eliminate that number one cost for them by really getting a good quality tenant as fast as possible. And by putting those folks on a nurture campaign, which they do receive, it comes at a good cadence. It's once a week. It checks in with them. If by chance they didn't meet our standards with approval in way of credit or some sort of background, or maybe they needed a co-signer, or maybe they weren't ready to move in within the time frame we needed, it absolutely nurtures them and keeps them in tie with us, what we've got going on.
Got it. What marketing channels have been the most effective in attracting new tenants? And are there any you feel like that can be optimized a little bit more?
I think the consumer really leans heavily on Zillow. Zillow has built a big presence in the real estate marketplace. You do have competitors like Redfin. They're coming up that are also really trying to get the foot into that technical space. We use those third party sites, but we also utilize the multiple listing service. We work with the local realtor community, and a lot of property management companies do not. And there are additional sites like realtor.com, which is a big one. You see those commercials almost as common as you do Zillow. You can't syndicate to realtor.com unless you're running through your local MLS. So, it's a real disservice to a property owner to not utilize the MLS. There's a lot of folks that have really great backgrounds that seek realtor representation. Case in point, a lot of folks that are relocating for work, they're so tied up with trying to tie up the loose ends with where they're currently at. And then trying to transition here to Fort Worth, possibly for Lockheed Martin or for the movie studio that's being built by Taylor Sheridan. Got Tiger Woods golf course going in just west of us in Aledo. So we got a lot going on here in terms of development and job opportunity, economic opportunity. And so those folks that are that busy, they are going to seek a realtor, and those folks are going to have a lot of times better backgrounds, right? If you had evictions or bankruptcies or sex offenses on your background, you're not going to be as inclined to go seek a realtor to represent you, because ultimately there's going to be a little embarrassment whenever that denial comes, and that realtor may be asking you, why did you get denied? And why is it happening multiple times? I don't want to keep, working with you if I'm wasting my time. So it's those kinds of things. And we are real big on that. I highlight that. It doesn't get discussed enough.
So kind of switching to the financial side of things, how do you guys manage financial reporting and performance analytics, maybe KPIs for investors, or you guys internally?
Yeah, we do measure KPIs for our investors, and we present some of those metrics to them. We also we have a robust management software, and we utilize a system called Rentbind. Great program. It handles all of our rent collections. It's connected to our bank accounts with escrow and operating. Those funds processed, we make those disbursements to the owner. They get a monthly accounting statement with the breakdowns associated to their income and expenses, and then they get a 1099 at year's end. If there's any questions that they have, the statement is very easy to read. It's plus and minuses, right? And then what those minuses were associated to. So, if there are questions that arise from those, we absolutely clarify any of that. Our line in the sand for an owner requiring approval is $300. So, anytime we have an expense that exceeds that $300 limit, we've got to get an owner's approval in writing. The other benefit to our management software is that when a tenant sets up a maintenance request, it actually sends a notification to our client's email in real time, the same time that we're receiving that, and they get to read word for word what that work order is from that tenant's fingertips, the owner that is. So there's a lot of transparency. These owners, they're not having to so much interface deal with the tenants, but we are keeping them in the know from the back end of this in real time. So they're seeing what we're seeing. And there are times it helps where an owner would see that and say, hey, you know what? I failed to mention this, but that actually is a new appliance and it's under warranty, or that my HVAC guy's got this under warranty and for 5 years, and it may have been a 2-year system. So some of those things that may not have been brought up at onboarding become relevant in real time, and they get to see that, and it helps.
We work with clients to leverage AI tools, and I'm wondering how much is AI automations a part of your business?
Great question, and it's becoming more and more. With our management software, we do integrate it with a task management system. The task management system has a two-way integration. So it eliminates errors in data entry regarding rent rates, client's name, tenant's name, any of those variables, security deposit amount. And, when you're dealing with as much entry as we deal with, having that double integration and relaying that data from one system to the other in 5-minute intervals, it just helps a ton. They're also building AI within these systems, both of them, to help us with maintenance, troubleshooting maintenance, being able to identify and relay in real time automatically on its own troubleshoot measures for, hitting the reset button on the disposal or changing the batteries in a thermostat or flipping the breaker or hitting a GFCI. Maybe a light fixture's not coming on or plug's not working. Those things that are, quick troubleshoot measures. AI is really great at focusing in on keywords within a work order and can automatically digest that and produce a response.
Yeah, switching to kind of the renter's experience, I know you guys have various resources on your website. How do you gather and act on feedback from your residents to improve their experience?
That's something that I have not gotten to that point yet. We are working on some sort of an NPR score where you're actually sending out surveys after a work order was completed or a lease renewal was signed. There are programs for that, and absolutely people are measuring that. We are not. I think a really good, again, we're a small company, only services 2 counties. So, feedback for us in being more of a family feel company, not so much of a corporate feel, we're going to be able to see a lot of that in real time and get that feedback, or we're going to see that on our Google review platform, for example. I think that's always a great barometer as to what type of company you're dealing with. It's one thing when you see bad reviews, especially if it's from a tenant on why they didn't get their security deposit back. And it's another to see a negative review from a property owner that is clearly conveying the dysfunctionality regarding maintenance and how it was handled or how much it cost or all of the above. So I think NPR's scores are something that is absolutely relative, especially in today's time and technology and marketplace, but we just haven't gotten there yet. Good question, though, Scott.
Yeah, I know you would talk about maintenance. I know that's how you mentioned how that's like number 2 on the list of expenses. I mean, how do you have a process? Because I've spoken with other people before where they'll kind of batch it, where they'll just, and I don't know what the size of the company necessarily is, but they'll batch the repairs so you're not going in and out all the time. Do you guys have a process to make sure it gets done, but it's also cost effective for you?
Absolutely. Yeah, we require, again, we preach transparency. So we require before and after pictures on all work orders, even if it was a thermostat that was registering a high temperature. Obviously, it's tough to show your house is 90 degrees. So we require they take a picture of that thermostat because it does show the inside temperature. those kinds of things to really show an owner, hey, we got a problem here. Number one, we're not making this problem up. There's something here. And then, of course, the resolution to that problem. They want to see maybe it's a picture of that thermostat that shows a 70-degree house opposed to an internal 90-degree or a component. That's the bigger part is they would get pictures to the component that got replaced that brought that temperature back. So, and they also get the direct vendors invoicing, management companies. And I'm not saying all of them, but a lot of them do create a profit center regarding the time spent on maintenance. Maintenance takes a lot of time. You're going to be paying somebody to coordinate, facilitate, troubleshoot, work out the invoice and pay the bill and put it on your statement. There's a lot there. We do a flat $25 charge for each work order we complete. We don't charge that until, in fact, it's completed. A lot of management companies are 10, 15% is normally industry standard, 10, 15% that they're applying on that invoiced amount as a markup. Some companies will show you the direct vendor's invoice. Some will transpose vendor's invoice onto their own and apply the markup, and you're just seeing that invoice, right? So that's always a good question in your vetting with property managers regarding transparency and what that maintenance markup looks like. You look at what 15% costs you on a hot water heater. Hot water heater goes out, you're looking at about $1,800 in Texas, Fort Worth anyway, for tank, plumber, permit, and labor. And that's out the door cost. Now, if you're applying $25 to that, that's $1,825. If you're doing 15%, that's, what's that, $180, something like that. Makes me pull my calculator out. It's steep. 1,800 times 0.15. Yeah, it's $270. $70 on top of that 1,800. So there's a good question to ask because you talk about your second biggest expense. There's a big catalyst driver right there, just on those markups.
No kidding, right? If you could automate one part of your business, whether to save time or reduce costs, what would it be?
That's a good question. I would really love to see AI be able to really generate and forecast renewal rates. It's getting there, but we still check against that. We still look at what the MLS has. So that's the thing is AI doesn't have access to some of this data. I know Zillow does. They've got access to MLS data now. But I think that is kind of the challenge is I would love to be able to plug a program in and run a renewal rate and get a solid renewal confirmation on the various properties around me. And then be able to, the system be able to recognize that it hit a certain approval, like it hit a certain percentage rating standard in terms of the accuracy. If it, for example, if it got a report that was 94% or above accurate, that it automatically took that rent renewal rate and it plugged it into the renewal document and sent it out and notified the resident. That'd be great. But there are you do require a lot of human beings in property management even now. I mean, when you deal with people in the ever changings of people, there's the dynamic that, technology hasn't been able to fix for this business yet. It does certainly make it better when it comes to improving communications where, especially during some of your busiest times, like the summer months when HVACs are just felling right and left, and you're really judging maintenance based on priorities at that point, not so much trying to get to every client, every tenant, resident possible that day. It's really trying to get to the big ones that could cause you harm or the owner harm with Texas property code and the timeframes associated to those repairs. So I would love to be able to see AI and technology come in and fill the void in some of those areas that don't require the human touch on the emergencies and can just be dispatched on a handyman for a doorknob, something that would be simple.
Yeah, no, I get that. So one of the goals of the podcast is really to teach people how others have scaled their businesses. What do you think has been successful for you for getting to the point where you guys are at right now?
Grit, and more grit. I think starting a company, it's the most challenging and most rewarding thing I've ever done. It's certainly, I think you have so many doubts up front and you learn to either lean into those doubts and just take a leap of faith, or you just get so terrified that you never do it. And I have to say, take the jump. And for me, it was about really getting out to as many investor groups as I could, Saturday mornings, in the evenings, times that you're like your family's coming home and you're having to walk out the door to go build as many relationships as you can. I'd say that's been a benefit, trying to plug yourself into, Chamber of Commerce's, getting involved with your city, really trying to express your servant's heart, right? I think that anytime you can come to the table to benefit, to help somebody, that's there's always going to be rewards that are going to come from that. And so, and really trying to help people. I find a lot of times now, especially here lately, where we filled a lot of calls where folks are upside down on their escrow on their mortgages, and you're seeing 11, 1,200, $1,500 differences between what the market says their home's worth on the rental market to what the actual mortgage is that they're paying. And so those are some tough conversations. But you've even got to let those folks understand that, hey, you can take a huge 30, $40,000 haircut now, or you could take little losses every month, and we can still actually turn that negative into a positive just through your appreciation gain, because you don't have any equity right now. So, if you can hold on to this, we can actually turn that negative into a positive. It's going to take a little time, but we can do it. And it's just a matter of getting them to kind of understand that, and knowing that they don't have to lose everything right now up front.
Yeah, that's great. Maybe one more question. As far as like where you want to take the company, have you thought about, hey, here's where I want to be in the next 3 to 5 years, whether it's expanding or just growing your team, or what are your thoughts on that?
My ultimate goal is at 1,000 properties under management. We're at 196 right now. So it's a big goal, fifth of the way there. And to me, I could see having maybe some offices around Tarrant County, maybe down in Waco where Baylor University is, some offices down in some of these other areas. But I'm not really looking to expand into Dallas. I really like what we built here with not being this big gorilla in the room. Smaller companies have a lot of benefit in how quick they can pivot, and bigger companies, bigger ships can't pivot like that. And there's it brings me a lot of peace knowing that I have something that we can turn on a dime pretty quick. When you're at 1,000 doors, I tell you're not going to be able to turn it on a dime as fast, but it's going to have a lot to do with the culture, absolutely the systems and the policies and processes that this company stands on.
Absolutely. So if people want to learn more about your company, what's the best way to go about doing that?
Yeah, great question. TraversePM.com is our website. I've got some terrific information under our services tab. There's a drop down menu with various videos that give you some more information with tenant screening. Fraud is real prevalent today with technology advancing. Worst thing you could do is put a resident in your home with an open bankruptcy. They could envelop that bankruptcy, and you'd have to get a bankruptcy attorney to get them out. That doesn't happen fast. So, really want to dig down on somebody, and there's a lot of great information. And if there's any questions, or if I could be of any help to anybody, I've got my email. It's Jon at traversepm.com. And you can reach us through our office number too.
Well, thanks so much. This has been great.
Yeah, I've enjoyed this, Scott. I appreciate you having me today.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.